There is no proof of a historical Jesus beyond literature, and literature alone is not enough proof to validate whether or not someone existed, especially someone who supposedly is the Son of God. I promised this person that I Trey that I would make this video today. So let me get to it. He said that in part of a discussion that I was having with another gentleman, where I said that I don't accept that the historicity of Jesus, and even though people like Bart Ehrman, I like a lot of his material. Where he goes ahead and gives into the historicity of Jesus, I think Bart Ehrman is just trying to play nice when it comes to that. I don't think that he actually believes that himself, but is trying to keep the argument down so that he can be heard on the other subject matters to which he's talking about. But my guy here says that Jesus, and I'm gonna take this in parts, which is why this video might be 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. He said that Jesus is attested in the four gospels, internal witnesses. Okay, so let's take that part first. None of the gospels are actually eyewitness accounts because none of them were written at the time frame that the supposed Jesus story was occurring. None of them are also eyewitnesses because the names that are attributed to them are names that the Orthodox Christian Church, which becomes Catholicism later on, these are names that they gave to it, not names that were inscribed on the materials that they did find. The earliest earliest gospel concerning this Jesus was written in and around what most scholars agree to, in and around 60, 70, 80 AD. None of them were actually written in around 30 AD when Jesus actually supposedly all these things happened to him. So that in itself is one reason why these are not eyewitness, but these are hearsay. These are stories that people were telling. If you believe that this Jesus actually existed. Now, it is more likely that this was a story that had its beginnings with the writings of Josephus when he became the scribe of Titus, as Titus and Vespasian conquered Judea in the 60s to 70 AD. AD or CE during that time frame. And then Vespasian understand in order to shut down the messianic message, he had to create a more uh, benign Messiah. Vespasian also used the writings of Josephus and the Old Testament to validate himself as a god, as a deity, so that he can become part of the imperial religion, which is something that Roman emperors had to do. Now you go on to say that, as well as external sources, ranging from Tacitus to the church fathers, Ignatius. I'm gonna stay right there for a second. Now, when you're looking at Tacitus didn't write anything concerning Jesus until around 120. Um, it was around 120 that he wrote something about Jesus, as well as Pliny the Younger. But most of the time, they wrote about people who believed in this story. They weren't writing about the actual deity of Jesus, that they knew him, that they were validating him, but actually the stories, they were writing about the people who believed in him and what should they do concerning those people who were, as they call them, Christians. But if you were to, I want you to think about this, Trey, and I want you to really answer this one. If you accept Titus's writings validating a Jesus, then you should also accept his writings validating a Serapis, because it is in Tacitus writings where he said that Serapis came to two different people in Egypt, and while Vespasian was there, they told those two people, go to Vespasian, and he will spit in one on the ground and make some mud. Spit and make some mud, and then put that in one person's eye, and then they will begin to be able to see. And the other person, he said that he will step on his hand, and he will heal his hand. These are things that are attributed to Vespasian performing miracles, which Vespasian used those in order to, they used that to deify Vespasian as well, but they did it through the belief in the deification of Serapis as well. So if you accept Titus for historical Jesus, then you have to accept Tacitus. Accept Tacitus for a historical Serapis and the miracles performed by Vespasian through Serapis. So do you accept that as well? You can't have your cake and eat it too. Then he said virtually all scholars affirm that the historical person Jesus existed. No, not all scholars do that. you be mindful of using finite terms. That's when, if you said most or a lot or something like that, I would agree. Of course, all biblical scholars who went through seminaries are apologists and those sort of people, they do, because they have to take a pledge that no matter what information they find, that they will support this belief. But not all circular scholars accept that Jesus actually existed. Not even that many Jewish scholars accept Jesus. Most of your Islamic scholars accept Jesus because Jesus is part of their religion as a great prophet, but not the Son of God. So you do have those who do. And when you go outside of Western and that Levant area, many scholars do not accept Jesus as a historical being. Now, many will skip around it because they know that they don't want to upset the balance because of so many people who believe in this. So they want to play nice, like Bart Ehrman. You say that it's whether or not he resurrected. That's the subject to debate. But we went over the resurrection in a live today. I hope you guys go check it out on my YouTube channel, Why I Left Religion with Coach Ren. But yes, that part is very debatable. You say you'd argue for both, but there is absolutely zero proof that there was a resurrection outside of your New Testament writings. And the thing about it, true archaeology, true proof of anyone actually existing generally goes beyond literature. Literature alone is not enough. If we were to only accept literature, then you would have to accept something like the Odyssey and the Iliad. And if you accept the Odyssey and the Iliad, then you have to accept Cyclops exists. You have to accept that sirens and mermaids exist. You would have to accept that Achilles, who was a son of Zeus, that Achilles exists. You would also then have to accept that Hercules exists. Oh, but wait, there's some historical evidence of a king, Hercules of Argon, who was then legendized into the son of Zeus and then rose up and ascended to the heavens. So did Hercules, king of Argon, exist? Yes. Did he perform those 12 trials and ascend to heaven as the son of God? No, that is not provable. That has not been proven. And we can say that that is myth. Achilles, was he the only part of him that could be hurt is his tendon that we now call the Achilles tendon, and him being a son of God? No, that's not provable. Did he fight in the Trojan War? It was all considered to be myth until the actual city of Troy was found. Once the city of Troy was found, then you may be able to say that Achilles could have existed and the other warriors who fought during that time frame could have existed. But unless there are some proof in archaeology, such as finding that city and finding the inscriptions and pottery and all that, it didn't exist. And just as Troy didn't exist except in myth, except in literature. So literature alone is not enough, because if literature alone is enough, then Superman exists, Spider-Man exists, Batman exists, the X-Men, they all exist because we have literature on them. Then Macbeth exists. All the writings of Shakespeare, then they exist if we are just going by literature. But this is why no good scholar would actually only accept literature. And there's actually more proof that this deity probably didn't exist based on the writings of Josephus, based on the campaigns of Rome through Judea, based on the fact that 125 or so different historians existed during that time frame in Judea, and not one of them wrote about Jesus. None of them. Do you not find that interesting? That the historians of the day did not write about Jesus. You would have thought that they would have been the first ones to write about this Yeshua character, but they didn't. Those are some of the reasons why I do not accept Jesus as a historical figure. But I really want to know what your thoughts are concerning having to accept everything else based on what you are accepting for Jesus, as far as literature and as far as Tacitus. But remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.